morning. Thank you for joining us for the Hayworth College of Business Entrepreneurship Forum. I'm Amy Kokenauer, an administrative assistant at the college, and I will be serving as your host today. Before we get started, I'll explain the format and overview for today. Laurel Offstein, Associate Professor of Management and Director of the Hayworth College of Business Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation, will introduce our speaker, Sydney Davis. Her presentation will be followed by a Q&A session. Please use the Q&A or chat feature to enter questions. With that, I would like to introduce Dr. Laurel Offstein.
Welcome. Thank you, Amy, and welcome. Thank you for that introduction. Thank you for joining us today. Our sponsor for this event is Blue Ox Credit Union. I thank them for their dedication to the college and for supporting businesses in our community. Sydney Davis is a founder of Nixcode, a no-code app development software company. Davis won multiple equity-free pitch competitions, earning over $100,000 as she worked to start Nixcode. Since launching in April 2020, the company has supported more than 54,000 users, receiving a $3.3 million valuation at the end of its very first year. Thank you for joining us today, Sydney. I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm really happy to be here and hopefully give you my TED Talk and can answer some questions that you have here today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. Awesome. Okay. So I want to really focus on the experience around being a founder, some takeaways, the journey, and some interesting things that you will experience along the way. So I will talk about, and let me refresh and make sure that I'm good to go with my images. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second. Then I'm going to reshare. Awesome. Okay. Perfect. Okay. I'm going to reshare you guys. Okay. So I want to talk about where I started. Not going to start from childhood, although I will say this. I have always had an entrepreneur spirit since middle school, high school, when I used to sell candy out my backpack and back in the day, burn mixed CDs for people. I always had a drive to make money and want to serve people where I felt like a need was happening. And so, anywho, I moved to Kalamazoo to attend Western, where I graduated from the College of Engineering, and focused on, getting a job, the traditional things you all are here to do. And I actually started my very first business while in college. And most businesses, I started from a place of passion where I wanted to help people reach self-actualization with a project or blog called Read Wulu, which means to love yourself. And I actually, had writers and everything, and I actually started to get good traction and did like a fashion show at Western and even branched it out to an RSO. Like I was really involved in taking this to the next level. And I remember when I told my dad I was going to do this, he was like, you really need to just focus on getting out of college. Like you don't need to be trying to do entrepreneurship as well. But I pursued it because that's the tenacity that I have. And it was fun. But I realized that perhaps it wasn't resonating and Read Wulu didn't really speak to people. So I rebranded it as Chic Chat, where I continue to do content. I created a website myself and learned how to do all those things and researched and talked with other friends. And I actually created my first viral piece of content. Became before Instagram influencers, it was being an influencer in the blog and content space. And that's what I was able to achieve. And what was crazy enough about this experience, although I had this mission to want to create content to empower other people, no one was asking about the content. No one even cared about the content, really. Most people asking, well, how'd you get ads? How'd you develop your website? How did you get it to mobilely render like that? How did you get your technology to work? Because I have an idea and I want to do something, but I struggle at that piece. And so that led me to my next journey, actually trying to serve the things that I felt were needed. So I graduated from Western, started working as an engineer in the utility industry, and I never lost my entrepreneurship spirit. Um, I actually stopped content writing and actually want to start helping people build businesses by providing strategic strategy. I started developing websites and mobile apps for people. Um, but eventually, through the process, it slowed down, and I knew I wanted to do something really big. And I knew it was going to take money, I knew it was going to take time. So, while I was working my corporate job, I actually opened a commercial business called Pop Up and Paint. It's like painting with a twist, but we did it for the culture, is what I like to say. And so it was fun. I opened this new nightlife option right in downtown Jackson. That's the utility where I was living at the time after college. Um, and actually, I ran Pop Up and Paint for about 2.5 years. I franchised it into 3 different states. Um, it became my full-time job because I actually left my corporate job in the process of it. And I used this to kind of hopefully jumpstart the tech thing I wanted to do because obviously there was a focus that people wanted help with one business and they needed to do it in a technical manner. And I wanted to focus on that and kind of do it and put more energy into it. So I continued to pitch this idea. When my first pitch competition was $1,000, and it felt good. And I was really good at pitching. I'm not a salesperson, I feel like, but I'm really good at pitching. I'm really good at building a connection and relaying people to the purpose of what I'm pursuing and showing its impact. So, what am I doing now after experiencing all those things? Well, 10 years later, because mine just started in college. So, this was, oh my gosh, 10 years ago, just about. Um, all those things to actually finally have something that works. That was a lot to go through, a lot to experience before I actually had that business idea that hit, before it had the traction, the clarity. Um, and I was able to launch a software company that allows people to build tech without needing to code. And I like to actually consider it more of an ed tech platform. So, what this really allowed was me to still serve and educate people in the form of business, but equip them with the software and tools to get it done and remove the roadblock of cost um, and technical know-how. Because those were the two common things I found were holding people up from success. I started off as Tequity, and because my lack of trademark searching and a lot of brand confusion, I rebranded it to Nix Co, where I was able to trademark. So a good lesson learned in business: consider your trademarks. But with that, I started in April 2020. And in that same year, I won my next major pitch competition. And I kept winning after winning after winning after winning pitch competition. Equity free, usually most of them are. And with the pitch competition, it's not only about the money, but I got, services like marketing, I got new banking, I got mentorship, I got programming. I got exposure for people said, "Hey, we want you on Shark Tank." I got nominations, I got recognitions, which then in turned into one press and awareness for my startup because I also am a startup founder, so I didn't have a marketing, I didn't have like paid promotional budget, I didn't have dollars to spend on ads, but with the work I put in building relationships and putting myself out there, I was able to actually get users on my platform, and I never paid a single one of them to be there. I've never done paid marketing, and I have 56,000 users on our platform. And all of this builds one credibility to what I'm doing and also gets me out there in front of new people who are my ideal audience. Because a lot of people in these business pitch competitions have been where I was or am today. Um, One of the other things I went for was a really huge opportunity that just happened not too long ago. It was called 43 North, and it is one of the most prestigious pitch competitions in the United States. Actually, it's international because you actually could be from anywhere in the world and pitch. And what it is actually an investment pitch competition. So my very first one, and it's a super long process. They make you do due diligence. I had to pitch about 2, 3 times to different groups of people. They narrow you down from a written application to a 10-minute pitch to a 5-minute pitch to a 2-minute pitch. I went from hundreds of applicants to the top 40, to the top 20, to the top 10. Where then out of the 10, 8 people were selected for a $5 million investment, for less than 10% equity and a less than $100 stock, which was actually pretty fairly good terms. Not only that, they put you in a 12-month accelerator in Buffalo, New York. But I say all that to say this. With that came a lot of failure. And that's a part of the process. That is not a letdown. That is not losing. That is actually growing. And I want to be transparent and kind of express what takeaways I got from what I identify as my 2 biggest failures. But without them, I don't think I would have had that previous slide that I showed you. So before I started Tequity, believe it or not, I tried the exact same business. It was called Hype Digital Innovation. I launched this while I was still working in corporate before I did pop up and paint. And I could not make a sale. I did it for maybe 2, 3 years, just trying to push at it. I kept trying to sell mobile apps to people and offering to do it for them, and trying to remove the technology, like doing a no code software. I couldn't even give apps away for free. I remember being on Facebook Live asking who wants an app and willing to build it for them. I think I was selling apps for anywhere from $79 to $400. And knowing a mobile app is way more valuable than that. Um, and I never made any money. In fact, I probably ended more so in the negative. And it was frustrating, it was overwhelming, and it was just, it wasn't a point of success. But with doing that and actually considering myself failing at trying to sell to people this software and not getting any sales for years, or really underselling myself, I really was able to take it and learn from it. And what I got from that was I failed to be very clear on who. I was trying to sell apps to everybody. And guess what? Everybody doesn't need an app. I was trying to serve and market to everyone. And in marketing, you cannot talk to everybody. And I was trying to have all these variations of pricing. It lacked a lot of clarity. And I never actually talked about the value or importance, or how having this app could solve your pain, fill a gap, or make something easier for you. I just lacked a lot of clarity around the what I'm doing. Also focus on the why. And what I mean by that is sometimes we talk about what our business idea is. We're very driven on the technology, the how we do it, because that's what's exciting and innovative and intellectual. But on a consumer end, they don't care about how you get it done. It's how is this going to help me? How you get it done, I will take your advice on. I'll take, heed on whatever you say. But I'm not communicating the what I'm doing for people and who I'm doing it for. I was so tied into what the software can do. And as people who are non-technical, they don't know the difference, right? So they're more like, I'm just looking for something who could solve a problem. And I lacked clarity around what the problem they were having. And my last one was that 43 North competition. Although I made it to the very top 10, to the finals, which was a really great and exciting experience, as you've seen from my GIF, I actually did not place. And it was my very first time not winning a pitch competition. And I remember walking back off the stage when those elevators hit, I just fell apart. I'm naturally competitive by nature, but also I wanted that opportunity. I knew what that could mean for my business. And being a startup anyway, like that was just, it was a shot. And I feel like I didn't get that shot. And although it just happened like last October, November, I still have a hard time even watching like recaps and the press around it. But it was a failure, but I also took from it one thing, that for me to have no investment means I've never taken any paid investment. I have bootstrapped. I've never had paid marketing. I was probably the youngest and only person there who hadn't made $1 million in sales, nor did I have any investment, and I still made it to the top 10. And I think a lot of people feel intimidation for even going for these opportunities because I have not had this metric. I have not hit this milestone. I don't have paid customers, or I don't have, 6 figures in sales already. I still go for every opportunity, big or small. And I got all the way to I beat out people who had millions of dollars in revenue. They had tons of investors backing traction. They were great products and services. But because of the experience I had with Hype Digital, I had so much clarity and finally knew purpose and what and how, and has some validation behind it. People recognize that, seem to agree with it, and I was able to make those measurements of success and get these opportunities. Um, but with that experience, I was able to take away a lot of lessons learned. The people who did win in place were really great examples, relationships to establish to get mentorship, or for them to pull you up for another opportunities. Because really great thing about really true successful people, they are not gatekeepers of information, and they are not crabs in a barrel. They definitely want to help you and see you win and pull you up. So the opportunity was really great, and the lessons learned, the investors and feedback I got, again, to apply to the next phase in growth of where I'm going to for 2022. So, what does it really require to have success, and what I've learned over this time from where I started, what have I experiencing to what I'm doing today? It's going to take discipline. If you lack discipline, you're going to lack being successful. And I feel like that's not new. I think we could look at any mogul and see that they have some level of discipline. I'm not saying you need discipline around every single factor, but there has to be a lane that you choose to be disciplined in. And it could be just what unique consistency is. And discipline also means you stick to decisions, that you don't waver. And so some ways that I have made discipline in my journey was I actually said, you know what? I can't stretch my capacity across multiple entrepreneurship endeavors. I know it's hard because we're super creative and we got all these ideas, which you see, I've done a lot of things. It is almost irresponsible for me to even think that I can have the capacity to drive a startup to the success I'm talking about doing 10 different things. I have to close the doors and put my focus, trust, and energy into what I feel like I was called in and what I want to do. So I close any open existing doors. I close out any website clients. I closed my business. I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do Tequity I'm going to only do this. I'm going to only focus on that. I got the discipline to just focus. Consistency. I stayed doing that. I didn't pivot. I didn't change. Oh, I've been pivoting skill and strategy, but I didn't change up focus. I didn't change up what we were doing. I stayed consistent in my product and in my service. I stayed consistently applying for opportunity. I stayed consistently showing up. I had to finally notice one of the things that also drove me from success was over the years was I lacked discipline. I was stretched so thin. I was losing capacity. I failed to be consistent with Hype Digital or with Wulu or with Chic Chat. I lacked the discipline that could have made those things, I think, could have been just as successful as Nick's code. But I didn't have the knowledge then, right? I didn't know what I knew then that I know now. And that's what I hope you can take away from this too, that if you are considering working in business or being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, someone could tell you what you wish you knew now, and you have now the information. So what I wanted you to take away from some things to do. And maybe these are affirmations that you'll achieve this year, but stay consistent in one thing. Just stay consistent. Stay consistently showing up. Just show up. Imagine, I think they tell you this across any go, whether you're trying to lose weight or trying to achieve something, like just stay consistent to see results. Sometimes we bail out and go off track before we can. And mind you, consistent doesn't mean every day. People think, oh, daily. No, consistent could be once a month, once a week, once a quarter, 2 times. Like it's just consistent. It's a pattern, it's a habit, and you have to just show up. Stay niched means stay focused. Stay very focused, narrow down. Even when you think you're narrowed down, like women, what kind of women? Women located where? Women who eat what? Women who wear what? Like you are so clear and niche. That would help you so much because I think marketing is a new beast, and it's hard when you're trying to sell something and you don't know who you're talking to, you don't understand them, and you can't reach them. Imagine if you're trying to run an ad, what they're going to do is ask you to tell us who you're trying to reach. And it's going to say, well, women, okay, you got a couple billion people. That's a lot. The chance of you actually reaching them with your budget, in case you got a lot of, if you don't have a lot of money, it's going to be pretty small of a funnel. So the more specific you can get and you put your SEO out there, search engine optimization, or your marketing, your ads, or even if people have to write about you in press, the right people will see what you're doing or see your marketing and see your services or products, and you'll get the right people in who already spend money versus when you're not getting sales like I experienced because you ain't in front of the right people who need you. Be decisive. I think procrastination and stalling to make decisions is a big holdup. You can always change your mind. You can always say no. You can always stop. But you have to at least move. You have to make progress. You got to move forward. So that means you're going to have to make a decision. And the biggest holdup is not making any decision at all. Be decisive. It's okay. And if you make a mistake or something breaks or something fails, you will learn from it. It is not the end of the world. But you have to keep moving forward. Be decisive. Be responsible. When I think of this, I just think of my parents. It's like don't be childish. And I think sometimes we make childish decisions. And when you want to have a successful business or startup, you're going to have to be responsible. You're going to have to be an adult and make the responsible choice. You can't, and that doesn't mean in terms of your personal life or anything, but in your business, you may have people who will say, "Hey, I think what you're working on is cool, but you should do this and you should do that, and I think this." You'll get so many outside opinions, but you have to be responsible for your startup success in yourself. So you need to not do what your friends say. If they say jump, you don't need to jump. You need to actually say, I'm gonna use some discernment. I hear you, but I'm responsible for the results of my business. I'm gonna have to be the one to actually take what I need from each bit of feedback that I get and become a master of one. Not try to be a jack of all trades. Do one thing. And it's not to say you can't ever do nothing and you can't serve other people and audiences and branch on to B2B and B2C segments. But before you do that, just master one channel. People sometimes for marketing, they try to do Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter. That's a lot of marketing content because you cannot market the same way on all those platforms, and the audience is not the same on all those platforms. You're going to have to pick one service, pick one audience, pick one social platform, pick one opportunity, pick one price. Just master selling that one thing to that one person via that one channel. Learn from it. Just stay consistent for 6 months doing that and see what you learn. You may learn that ain't what you need to do. You may learn you need to pivot. You may learn this is great. Or if I just change a few things, but you will never learn if you do not stick consistently. And if you try to do way too many things at the same time, that includes your marketing, includes your sales, all of those things. Master one thing, master one channel, master one audience before you start spreading yourself out. So to wrap this up, I just want to give you 10 things that I wish I knew um, when I started, about 10 years ago. And I feel like if I had these things and knew these things, then I probably would reach what I define as my personal success probably in half the time. There is no time limit for success, so the journey you have is what you have, and I receive it. But I think sometimes, especially as a minority founder or just someone who just came from a public school system or a first generation entrepreneur, we don't have exposure or anyone to tell us, hey, this is how you should go about it. And it wasn't until my older years where I actually found my community, where I joined accelerators, where after I left corporate, I realized I missed a lot of opportunities that could have helped me in business. And I lacked asking for help and putting myself out there. So after 10 years, I wish I knew the first profit first method. And there's a book called Profit First. And it's when I talk to you on entrepreneurship, I say, you need to read that book. If you're not making money, you need to read that book. And I didn't get it again to like when I did Pop Up and Paint. And Pop Up and Paint was the first business that I actually used Profit First method. It was actually my first profitable business. Um, and I think in business school, because at the College of Business, I took accounting twice, was not my strongest area of business. Not an accounting person, but it's always been, oh, revenue minus expenses equals your profit, right? That's traditional, and it's true, but truly, if you find yourself running a business that's just a cash cow, it's just like eating all your money, that's probably because you need to flip your formula around. So every time you get money in, so it's almost like reverse engineering your how you estimate your profit margins. So every time you sell a cup of coffee, let's say that's what you're doing, that is your business revenue. It's not your profit yet, but it's your revenue. So it's your 100% income from one item that you sell. Let's say you sell coffee for literally $10. You break that $10 down into a split of 10% of that $10 needs to go towards your profit. Off top, first thing you do is put it in your profit category. 15% of that should go to taxes. 15% of that $10 you put away in your tax account. 25% of that $10 should go to the expenses it costs to make it and pour it and buy it again. Right? It should not exceed 25% of the $10. And then the other 50% of that $10 you need to put in to pay yourself. So what they really encourage is almost having separate bank accounts is when you'll have a profit bank account, a tax bank account, an expense bank account, and then your personal account, which is your salary. So every time money comes in, you do this math, and of course you can pay yourself out and do the splits, weekly or monthly, but you know that with every sale you got, that you got your profit, your taxes are set aside and paid, you got your expenses covered to fund what you're doing, and you got some money to pay yourself. Now these percentages change, they don't have to stay this way. You can start with 1% profit. Your expenses may be a little high to start. You may not have salary. Your salary may be 5%. You may actually have a percentage of taxes should always probably be 15%. It's a good number, but every quarter you move your percentages to your goal percentages. So if your goal is actually pay yourself 50%, every quarter just move your percentage a little bit more towards that way as you're learning. So you can manipulate the percentages. Still always have to equal obviously 100, but manipulate the numbers as it fits the business and your sales. Validate first. Do not create paid products or investment and service tools until your first sale, which is something I learned. I would create a course. I would create the whole, content. I would create a whole software platform before I even knew people even wanted to buy apps. I could have easily just created an MVP, a minimal viable product. I could have just created a prototype. I could have just did something. I could have done pre-sales. I could have done mocked up. I could have done a landing page and got pre-sales. Someone needs to show me that I'm willing to buy what you are talking about. And then once I get that sale, then I'll go do the work. Because people should just pay you before you go pour them the coffee. People should pay you before you give them the item. And that just helps validate that before I put time and energy in this, are you willing to pay for it? Improving your circles. Find communities and build relationships with disciplined individuals working in progress and those who have achieved what you desire. So two groups, and I noticed this too as I was in my startup journey, I was not finding my community. I was not finding people who could really help me, or that I could really see what they're doing as well. So find your appropriate circles of people who are also like in bit, like they got great discipline. The discipline I told you about, find people who are disciplined like that, because you are who you spend most time around. And it is true that those things will relate to you. If you see people working and being consistent and showing up, it will encourage you to do that. You have to get off of fear and imposter syndrome, and you have to show up. So find people working in progress, but then also find those circles of people who are already kind of doing what you hope to achieve one day, because they're going to share resources, they're going to help you, they're going to give you connections. There's so much value in relationships that, yes, there is a big piece of who you know. Get support to ask for help. So apply to business and support programs, incubators, to be matched with mentors and get resources where you need help. Asking friends and family and talking to folks is good, but they are not the ones who've reached business success. You want to, and also don't have a responsibility to help you. They don't, as much as they should if they love you and care for you, but they're not responsible to. But programs and businesses that incubate and support you, like that's what they get grants and funding to do. That is their responsibility. So you make sure you get mentors and you leverage those opportunities, do not waste it. You have to show up, do not waste their time. Leverage those mentors and get all you can, and be very clear that when you start a mentorship, you say, okay, here's what I want to get out of this. They know that, and you guys set a plan. By the time this ends, this is how we're going to measure if this was successful, that I was able to achieve these things. And then be clear on the resources where you need help. That means you got to be honest about where you don't have the capacity and really what you cannot do. And sometimes don't feel intimidated. Just say, this is, I just can't do this. Maybe I just have an idea. Maybe I'm just a visionary and I need help with executing or finding a CTO or finding a CMO, things of that sort. Don't want to hurt your feelings, but your idea, your business, you yourself, you are not the exception. I think as I work with startups, everyone feels they are a unicorn, that they feel like they are the I got the brand new idea of something. Likely you're not, likely you don't. So I think you should listen and take heed to feedback. Feedback from users, feedback from people who see you showing up in the world, because they see you outside of your lens. Accept feedback from mentors, accept feedback from investors. Humble yourself to open yourself to a new perception. But then with that, you need to apply discernment. So I'm not saying you need to take everything and apply it, but you need to be open to hear it, digest it, and use your own judgment and discernment to say, yep, I really need to be honest with myself and do this or take this suggestion. Don't quit your day job. So if you do want to leave work or corporate and do your business, I at least recommend, which I have experienced leaving too soon. For 6 months, you should make at least 2 times your income. You doing that business that you want to do, not doing something else like I did pop up and paint to leave. I should have stayed there till I actually got to what Nick's code is today, in true honesty. And I've been out of corporate for about 5 years. But for 6 months, at least, you should be making double what you make at your job using that very niche, very focused business before you put in your resignation. But before you even do that, you need to value your work experience. I worked as an engineer and I worked at Consumers Energy, a corporate, Fortune 400 company. And some takeaways that you can do while you're working, even if it's like you feel like, I don't know, I want to do a business the same industry. There's always some transferable skills. One, it's great training to be a servant leader, and not to be a leader, but to be a servant leader. And those are two different things. It's where you're actually leading bottom up instead of top down. It's not about hierarchy. I'm the boss and you work for me, but realize that you work for other people below you. You work for the bigger picture. And sometimes when people are entrepreneurs, they say, I could never work for nobody else. I got to work for me. That is such a red flag, because that is not a servant leader mindset. You are always working for somebody else, and you shouldn't want anyone to work for you under that type of mindset. I would want to work for someone who wants to help me reach my goals as well. So I really found that I was in an environment to be a servant leader. Even if I was not in a leadership position, I was doing bottom up leadership, and something you can Google and research a lot of written things about being a servant leader. Dig deeper than your role. That means start looking around the company and getting to know different roles and getting mentorship people in marketing department. Um, Look at how the Fortune 400 company you work for is running. That's how I learned visual management, which I use in my startup. I actually learned project planning. I learned how to communicate. I looked at how people organize their goals and OKRs and KPIs and all these fancy terminologies that I eventually do want my company to be a Fortune 400 company. I'm actually getting the training and being able to watch from the inside and leverage that experience. And then also leverage development opportunities. Usually, when you work a job, there's opportunities for training and workshops. I make sure I went to a conference once a year on my personal development to find and connect and make relationships. And I sustained those. There was mentorship opportunities, and I even got my project management master's. Not because I wanted to do great project manager for them, although I did. I knew I wanted to be in product and develop that. I need to know how to manage projects, learn agile, learn lean. I leverage what they would offer me to not only help me in my job, but even if I left it, where I could apply it in entrepreneurship. Social media is unreliable. Your customer is likely not your Facebook friend. I think we leverage social media a lot. And we want shares and likes, and that is not the same as getting money. It is not a form of validation. Social media is not reliable for sales. It's great for awareness of your product and service, but it should not be relied on for sales. I don't think I ever got sales for social media, but I got referrals. I got, tags and awareness and promoted. It's great for that. But no, it's an oversaturated marketing channel, social media is. And so it should not be your only thing you focus on. And if I had to do the master of one, like just focus on one thing, I would choose a channel that's not social media based. For Nixco, we do not market on social media. Like we do awareness and do content, but our channels are so offline. It's through B2B, it's through one SEO is really great, or it's through having customer acquisition with things like SCORE, the SBA. We work straight at the university level, or we could even do things like Product Hunt, which is more of a channel people looking for products and softwares. There's so many other ways to diversify your marketing. I just think social media it looks like it's an easy way sometimes, but it's very overwhelming and competitive if you don't have big dollars. One thing I really love to tell people is ask for the sale. And I always tell people, even my own company, you didn't get the sale because you never asked for it. Sometimes we think our product is so great and so good that people will just buy it. And that is not always the case. Sometimes you have to ask for the sale. Like, do you want to buy? So it means do not be passive. Don't say, well, if you're interested, if you like, no, my product is great. This is what I do. Do you want it? Like, do you want to buy it and here's how much? Do not be passive about what you're selling and try to be modest, because I know sales can be uncomfortable and sometimes maybe feel icky, but you're in the business to do that. So don't be passive and drive value in your messaging to make it less icky. It's not, you're really trying to help someone solve a problem, and you feel like this is going to help you what you need, but you have to drive that when you're making that sale ask, and be clear and concise. It should be one, don't take about a whole paragraph text to communicate it. It should be very simple, very clear, and direct on who you're talking to and why it's a problem and what result your product will get them, product or service. Okay. And you then ask for the sale. And last but not least, the not so secret to making money if you're starting out. And what I wish I would have one learned is to double down. Using a pop method means one person, one opportunity for one price. Just do that. Just do that. Get that will one help you get clarity by driving down. But then also make your marketing easy. It really make the first part of your experience super easy over maybe 6 months, if you will, or the first year. I like to say stick to 12 months. Make sure you're solving a need, a pain, or a gap. Those are things people spend money on, unless you're like an entertainment business, which still takes knowing who wants to be entertained and how much they'll pay for it. But essentially, people pay to have their needs solved, their pain relieved, and to close a gap that is open in their life or in their business. And it is really important that any other marketing tactic in the world, if you can drive deep into your customer's world, to know what their day looks like, to know what they feel, to really understand their pain, their need, their gap, being able to dive super deep into that and spending the time to do that, that itself will help you sell anything. I mean, it's just really understanding your customer, and that will be super valuable. To one, doubling down and communicating clear and concisely. Those are things I really wish I would have applied and knew, at least those top 10 things I took away over the 10 years. And I do thank you for your time in coming to this TED Talk of mine. And I want to be able to take some questions that you may have. All right.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sydney. That was awesome. We do have a few questions, so let me see here. Um, our first one is you touched on it a bit, but the low code, no code sector is very crowded. What makes Nix code different?
That is. I think the industry has opportunity. I think everyone in the no code, low code space is doing something different and serving different people. So how we're different is we actually, one, are focused on education. Thank you. So we're actually focused on education. What most no code platforms are is just, again, they're focused so much on the technology, what they help you do. We are actually helping startups reach success. Like we're a startup unicorn platform. So we do accelerator CTO programs and we provide them the technology, which is the no code platform to do that. Where most other competitors are just the software themselves, or their web app, they don't publish the app store. So no code could be Airtable. They're not in the app space. No code is WordPress. That's a website. So we're one focused on mobile development, but also we know there's a gap and misunderstanding of mobile development for minorities. So we have about 90% women on our platform and 80% are people of color of those 56,000 users. And that's because also in technology, artificial intelligence fails to recognize darker skin tones. There is a way that you lack diversity in your user interface design by lacking graphics that represent your audiences. And also, when you want to build QR scanning databases or content databases, there's a lack of products that serve that minority audience. So we are actually intentional by building product integrations that serve our customer because they have been left out in that market segment of tech. And also, we understand that underrepresented founders do not receive the support they need to actually reach goals. They're not Silicon Valley unicorns that we read about. These other guys getting 1.5 million a couple days off of something on a napkin, right? We want to actually close that gap, right? I'm serving a gap. Um, that there is less women and less people of color who are getting acquired in investment in their startup, and specifically in the tech sector. So that's how we're different in the space, and then how we niche down, because that space is broad, but when you niche down to really what we do, it's not many people, if any, doing that, serving that audience and serving that gap.
All right. This piggybacks on that. How did you identify your target market for Nix code? Did you use market research or was it based on prior experience?
A lot of it prior experience. I validated because I got people asking me and paying me to do things for them. The reason why I even created this in the first place was because I got exhausted trying to be everyone's freelance developer. I can't do 10 app projects at a time and then they want to retain me. It's not even how I want it to work. I'd rather just equip them with the skills and knowledge and tools to do it themselves. Because that's just the way I wanted to work. I wanted more free time. I'm not looking to just be a solo developer freelancer. So that's one how I validated it, is that I already had people paying me to do what my software can do for them, and they were actually paying to retain me. So I knew I could do a subscription model. Market research probably could help too. I think I've done market research over the time. Now, like expanding my business, I'm doing deeper market research, but more B2B. Um, and I would say just the experience over the years, the lessons learned definitely helped me also kind of pick my market. I think there was different ways I could have went with it, but this is the one that one connects you with passion and results. So how long has Nix Code been in business, and how long did it take you get to where it is now. So
Okay,
I
great. We
like to
have a
think in,
few.
Hey, Amy,
okay,
Cindy just read the question. Oh, whoops. So
I think
sorry,
there's a little
Cindy,
delay.
having some technical difficulties, but
Okay.
go ahead and answer that question you read if you'd like. Yeah, Amy, we
So I
got
like
it. She read the question. Go ahead.
So I
Okay,
like to think of this in two
great.
ways. I started Tequity, the successful version of round two, what I was trying to do in April 2020. I did a pre-launch, I did a pre-sale, and I did it for 30 days before I actually launched it and like rolled it out. And so now we're going on 2 years come April. So um where we are now is 56,000 users, $312,000 revenue to date, profitable, a team of now 6 people that I run remotely. And before that, though, I guess I started Hype Digital, which was essentially the same thing, just not as focused or clear and as advanced because I obviously advanced the product since then. So I started that in 2014. So almost 10 years again total of so about 8 years total doing that, but um successfully 2 years almost. It looks like our pitch competitions and seed funding necessary for success. Nope, not at all. I actually, one of the conference I went to, Black Women Talk Tech, had a lot of women who actually run billion-dollar, annually generating billion-dollar companies and have not taken any money. And trust me, they get offers all the time. And they have not, because they have not found that right investor match. And because you don't need it, they have not accepted any money. Usually you take the money so you can get a great acquisition or exit. Um, Pitch competitions, again, not necessary, but I think it's another harder route to get out there, get connected, and it's great practice. Um, Even if it's not always a financial pitch, because I've done something that was no money, it could have been for resources. I think I was able to leverage that when I didn't have the income to spend in my business. So, not necessary, but great opportunities. Very good questions. Well, how did you know when it was time to abandon an idea that didn't work out? Um, Usually, if I'm not making money, after 6 months, I wouldn't even say abandon. At that point, I would pivot, be honest, and reach out for help. But usually after 12 months, and I'm talking about 12 months of consistency, don't quit if you know you ain't really showed up, you haven't really done the work, you haven't really got, you're not clear. You have to be honest with yourself. But if you do feel like you've put skin in the game, you apply the knowledge, you've been consistent, you feel like you've been concise and clear, and you have not reached at least consistent 4 figures, then you probably need to abandon idea. Gotcha. The great question. So what was your personal connection to your pop and paint business idea? And what was your connection to painting? How long before the business turned profit? Um, so I'm not an artist and had never painted in my life before I started that business. But Jackson, Michigan has little to no entertainment, and little to no entertainment for people of color. So obviously, I picked niches and markets because there were painting things. It just weren't things that people wanted to paint. So again, for me to separate myself and actually pick a customer segment, I did focus the art we painted to be very niche. So we paint Prince, Nipsey Hussle, Tupac, Biggie. We had theme music, Bob Marley, Marilyn Monroe, to the point that people actually would like they were collectibles. Like I collected all these paintings. And it was really cool, especially when I did Prince parties, that people want to collect every variation of Prince that we painted. I founded and researched startup business kits for paint parties. They had courses, they had resources, so I educated myself. I'm really good at identifying market opportunity. Um, and I use spreadsheets and resources to do business modeling. It's something I learned in corporate to make sure that how long would I have to do this before it made money. And I did make money until 3 months after it opened. I ran in the negative for 3 months and actually was not getting any parties booked. And then I first did my first biggie party because Because before I was doing like, girl with an umbrella, a flower pot, things like that. And I thought it was cool and, it was fun. But when I did the Biggie, I had my first sold out party. Then I did Prince, and I think I earned $3,000 in one night. Um, Another thing why I picked paint party businesses was because the expenses were super low. Per person, I spent like $8, and I sold tickets for $35 to $45. Sometimes I even got away with selling my tickets for $55. And I ran it myself as my own instructor, so the margins were really great. And imagine if you could fill a room up of $55 per person, and I would do anywhere from 35 to 40 people a party. So I could literally pay my rent for the commercial space in one class, pay myself, and that was just if I just did one a month, right? And I would do these multiple nights in a weekend. So no connection to painting, but I still love to do it. I paint now, and I got better over time. Love the real work example of strong opinions. Yes, for sure. I endorse that. How do you identify the things you did not know? Have you made any expensive mistakes? I think the things that you don't know till you don't know. But I also had parents. I have parents who I even take their thoughts and opinions with a grain of salt, but I do take heed that my parents do know me. And I have a mother who never fails to give me her very honest feedback about myself. And I am able to identify the things I did not know by basically being honest with myself and reflecting on some of the reasons why I weren't getting results. And eventually, when I dig deep and say, okay, well, something's missing, and I realize it's because you really don't know what you're doing. You really don't understand marketing. You really don't understand your audience. Um, you probably really don't understand a lot of business things. So I had to really scale back and say, you know what, I need help. And I don't know what I thought I did know. And again, took reflection on me understanding why I'm not getting results in a certain particular area. And also, I love feedback. I love feedback, so I received that. And have you made expensive mistakes? I think HDI was an expensive mistake. I put a lot of money to build a product that I did not validate people even wanted to buy. So yeah, I think that was. I think I would say about $20,000 mistake that I've done. And oh, I hired a marketing consultant for Tequity in my first year. And I won't say it was a mistake, but probably not the best decision. I think it was way too soon to try to bring on a marketing consultant. And she encouraged me to invest in marketing videos for YouTube. I probably spent about $16,000 in professional YouTube videos, paid her $2,000 a month. And we just did not have the clarity and conciseness quite yet to where a marketing person could come in and get you results. So probably just moved way too soon.
All right, we've got, let's take there's one question and one clarification in the Q&A. What is the best way to prepare for a pitch competition? And then just some clarification. I'll ask you that after.
Okay, cool. Um, the best way to prepare for a pitch competition, um, not only rehearse, but create a slide deck. So I use Canva, as you see. And all I do is really talk from the consumer perspective. A lot of times when we pitch, we keep talking about what we do and how we do it. But a lot of people may struggle and judge us to relate to that. So I just talk about the customer because either we know somebody like that, we've been there. And so people can relate to what you're doing and who you're doing it for and how you're doing it for them a lot better. So when I put my deck together, I just talk my customer experience, tell their story with my product. um, and also my trick is I try to look at whoever is pitching with me if I got to the pitch competition, and I try to see what opportunities they have and just try to do it better than they do. So if there were people talking about healthcare or different technologies, I would talk about what I'm doing and how it actually helps them. And also I try to make my product or service sound super critical. Like, what would happen if you did not exist to people? Build that fear of missing out and build that emergency, because that gets people to want to support and take action.
Great. In the clarification, what was the POP method or POP method again? Or is that PDP? And what was the word you used for the leadership working from the bottom up?
Yep. So POP method is one person, one opportunity. So your service or product offering. Don't sell two books, sell one book. So don't sell 10 coffee variations, sell the one same coffee. So one person you're selling to, one opportunity you're offering, and then one price. So POP method. And then it's called servant leadership when you lead from the bottom up.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Sydney, for your talk today. I want to mention to the students in the audience that there is a link to have this Count for Spurs credit in the chat. So please check that out, follow that link, and you should get credit. Thank you so much, Sydney, for a fascinating presentation. And to everyone, please join us for the next Entrepreneurship Forum on Friday, February 11th, featuring Jamari Bogan, CEO of Bogan Developments. Thank you for joining us, and thank you again to our sponsor, Blue Ox Credit Union. Have a good day, everyone.
Mm-hmm.